Find something new. On your demand, I have added some pics, and the word meanings are now in blue color. So, just after the word which is difficult or which is new to you, I have written in blue color about it or its meaning. So, let us start deep water explanation. It had happened when I was 10 or 11 years old. I had decided to learn to swim. There was a pool at the YMCA. So the word YMCA stands for Young Men's Christian Association. And Yakima is a place that offered exactly the opportunity. The Yakima river was treacherous, dangerous. So in this line, the writer narrates his experience that how he was when 10 or 11 years old. He joined YMCA swimming pool to learn swimming, and he did not go to the Yakima river to swim as it was considered dangerous. This shows that he had a prior fear of water. Mother continually warned against it. His mother always wanted him not to go there and kept fresh in my mind the details of each drowning in the river, and by giving examples she told how it was dangerous. But the YMCA pool was safe as it was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was 9 feet deep at the other, the drop, that slope was gradual. I got a pair of water wings and went to the pool. I hated to walk naked into it because I was very thin, but I subdued my pride and did it. But anyhow, I managed it. From the beginning, however, I had aversion to the water when I was in it. Actually, this is started when I was only 4 years old and I was with my father on the beach in California. He and I stood together in the surf. I hung onto him, and then waves knocked me down and swept over me. I was buried in water. My breath was gone, I was frightened, and at this my father laughed. But from that time, there was a terror in my heart that the waves are overpowering. It has overpowering force. My introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived unpleasant memories and brought childish fear back. But in a little while, I gathered confidence. I started paddling with my new water wings, watching over the boys and trying to learn by copying them. I did this 2 or 3 times on different days, and I was just beginning to feel at ease in the water when the misadventure happened. I went to the pool when no one else was there. It was quiet, the water was still, and the tile bottom was as white and clean as a bathtub. I was timid about going in alone, so I sat on the side of the pool so that I can wait for the others. I had not been there long when a big bruiser he came was around 18 years old. He had thick hair on his chest. He was a beautiful physical specimen, legs and arms that showed rippling muscles, moving muscles, and he shouted, "Hey, skinny, how would you like to be thrown into water?" And with that, he picked me up and threw me into the deep end. I landed in a sitting position. I swallowed water. I was to the bottom, frightened, and my wits were still working. On the way down, I planned. When my feet hit the bottom, I planned that I would make a jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. This planning he made while drowning. A long way down. The time I was drowning, I felt like it is taking too much time Those 9 feet were more like 90, and before I touched bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. But when my feet hit bottom, I gathered all my strength and I thought to push upwards. I imagined that I was jumping to the surface like a cock. Instead, I came up slowly. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but water, water that had a dirty yellow touch of color to it. I grew panicky. I reached up as if to grab a rope, and my hands clutched only at water. I was suffocating. I tried to shout, scream, but no sound came out. Then my eyes and nose came out of the water, but my mouth was still inside. I waved my hands at the surface of the water, swallowed and choked. I tried to bring my legs up, but it seemed like it is dead, paralyzed. A great force was pulling me under. I screamed, but only the water heard me. I had started on the long journey back to the bottom of the pool. I stuck at the water as I went down. I was losing my strength as one in a nightmare fights an irresistible sorry an irresistible force. I had lost all my breath, my lungs pained, my head was throbbing, and I was getting fainted. But I remembered the strategy. I would spring from the bottom of the pool, come like a cock. I would lie flat on the water, strike out with my arms, and hit with force with my legs. And this way, I would get to the edge of the pool and be safe. I went down, down, endlessly. I opened my eyes, nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see through. And then sheer, severe terror seized me, terror that knows no understanding, terror that knows no control, terror that no one can understand who has not experienced it. I was screaming underwater. I was not able to move underwater. My body was stiff, rigid with fear. Even the screams in my throat seemed like it's frozen, and only my heart was pounding in my head said that I was still alive. And then, in the midst of the terror, came a touch of reason. I must remember to jump when I hit the bottom. Touch of reason means bottom. At last I felt the tiles under me. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I was eager to touch them. I jumped with everything I had, but the jump made no difference. The water was still around me. I looked for ropes, ladders, water wings, for any help, but nothing, only water, a mass of yellow water. Hold me. Stark terror took an even deeper hold on me, like a great charge of electricity. I shook and trembled with fright. My arms would not move, my legs would not move. I tried to call for help, to call for mother, but nothing happened. And then strangely there was light. I was coming out of the awful yellow water, at least my eyes were. My nose was almost out too. Then I started down a third time. I sucked for air, got water. The yellowish light was going out. Then all effort ceased. I relaxed. Even my legs felt limp, and I black and a blackness swept over my brain. Means I was fainted. It wiped out fear, it wiped out terror. There was no more panic. It was quiet and peaceful, nothing to be afraid of. This is nice, drowsy, to go to sleep, no need to jump, no try to jump, nice to be carried along in space. I felt like tender arms are around me. the tender arms of my mother. Now I must go to sleep. Means the author was about to die. I crossed to oblivion and the curtain of life fell. It seemed like I am dead. The next I remember, I was lying on my stomach beside the pool. I was vomiting. The chap that threw me in, he was giving excuses that I was only fooling. And someone said the kid nearly died. Be all right now. Let's carry him to the locker room. And after several hours, I walked back to my home. I was weak and trembling. I shook and cried when lay on my bed. I could not eat that night. For days, a haunting fear was in my heart. The slightest exertion upset me. I was not able to bear any kind of exertion. It made me wobbly in the knees and sick to my stomach. And from that day, I never went back to the pool. I feared water and I avoided it whenever I could. A few years later, when I came to know the waters of the Cascades, I wanted to get into them. And whenever I did, whether I was wading the Titan or bumping river or bathing in warm lake of the Goat Rocks, these are name of the water bodies, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. It would take possession of me completely, and I always felt like my legs are paralyzed. I see horror would grab my heart. This handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. In small boats of main lakes, fishing for landlocked salmon, a kind of fish, bass fishing in New Hampshire, trout fishing on the Deschutes and Metolius in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, means different kinds of fishing, fishes, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades, wherever I went, that fear of water followed me, so I could never enjoy fishing. It ruined my fishing trips and deprived me all my joys of canoeing or boating and swimming. I used every way I knew to overcome my fear, but it held me firmly. Finally, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. The instructor put a belt around me, a rope he attached, and he used a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after hour, day after day. Means we practiced for many days. On each dip, on each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under. Some of the old terror returned. Means I was not completely coming out of that terror. It was 3 months before the tension began to reduce. Then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale, and to raise my nose and inhale. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times, bit by bit, slowly and slowly. That panic, that fear that gripped me, it was removed when my head went under water. This bit by bit I said is a very important line. He held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For many weeks I did that. At first, my legs refused to work, but gradually I felt relaxed and finally I could order them. Thus, piece by piece, again, this is an important line. Thus, piece by piece, again, it means step by step. He, the instructor, built a swimmer, and when he had perfected each piece, each skill, he put them together into an integrated whole. In April, he said, "Now you can swim. Dive off and swim the length of the pool and try different strokes." And so I did. And in this way, the instructor was finished. Here, it does not mean that he did. William started swimming, and the classes came to an end. But I was not finished. I still wondered if I would be terror stricken when I was alone in the pool. And so I tried it. I swam the length up and down, and still I found the tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. But now I could frown and say to that, I can challenge to that terror, trying to scare me, eh? Well, he is to you, look. Here is to you, look, and then he would swim. And off I would go for another length of the pool. This went on until July, but I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that all the terror had left, so I went to the lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, and there I dived off a dock at Triggs Island and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Act Island, another island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and back stroke. Only once did the terror return, when I was in the middle of the lake. I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned in miniature. I laughed and said, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me?" And then that terror also fled, and I swam on. Yet I had residual doubts. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up to the Titan to Conrad Meadows, up the Conrad Creek Trail to Mid Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of Warm Lake. The next morning, I stripped, dived into the lake, and swam across to the other shore and back, just as Doe Corpon used to do, a famous swimmer. I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. The experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known that stark terror and conquered it can only appreciate. In death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death. As Roosevelt knew when he said, "All we have to fear is fear itself," because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. The will to live somehow grew in intensity. So at last, I felt that I am now released. I'm free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside fear. And now it is time to complete the question answers. The answers I have already written here instead of value points. So just go through it. In case of any doubt, approach me. You can pause the video and you can read the answers. This time I'm not going to read it for you. These are some board questions that will help you. Just go through them. You need not to write in your